Hi, my name is Emily Ewing and I have returned with the always lovely Carol Hodge for Ewing and Hodge Chat, where we talk about all things music. And we are joined by a very wonderful guest who is a multi-genre drummer based in the UK who has played all over the UK and Europe, including music festivals such as Download Festival and also performing on TV like the MTV Europe Music Awards, and has an awesome band called the Hyena Kill. And if that isn't amazing enough, also does session work, depping, recording and teaching. It's Lorna Blundell. Woo!
Hello.
Hello.
That was a really nice, solid intro.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yes, take us back to the beginning and how it all started for you playing drums and what inspired you to pick up the sticks.
Well, I, like any kid starting out, had a guitar, or like there was a guitar knocking about the house, or my sister had a guitar or whatnot, and kind of had a dabble, and then went into a music shop and saw a drum kit and had a go. And I do believe they were just trying to sell me the drum kit, but they were like, oh, you're really good, you should buy this drum kit. It's like 250 quid. It was a Dragon kit in my hometown. And I was like, yeah, do you know what? Yeah, I'm buying it. This is great. I'm going to buy this. So I go home and my parents are like, I mean, no, not really. Not ideal. So I said to them, if I save up all of my paper round money, I think I was 13, 14 at the time. If I save up all of my paper round money, all my Christmas money, or I said to them, if I buy it myself, would you let me have it? And they were like, yeah, whatever, thinking that I wouldn't. And then, I saved up all my paper round money, all my Christmas money, and then went and put a deposit down on this drum kit and bought it. And then this guy knocks on the door delivering this drum kit, and my dad was like, Lorna! And I was so fortunate because I actually my parents were amazing, and I had my drum kit in the house. Now, I don't know if you've ever listened to somebody learn drums on an acoustic drum kit. It's agony. It's agonising, and especially for the neighbours as well. And yeah, it was amazing. Then I put it in the garage and so on and so forth, and just madly fell in love. I used to be quite into video games and things like that, and I totally dropped off all my other interests. I became obsessed with hitting these drums, and I kind of stopped playing guitar, which I regret doing a little bit. But I was just so. It was instant gratification with drumming. I think that's the thing.
Was there anyone in particular, musically, that inspired you while, learning to play drums as well?
Crikey, at the time, I was listening to bands like Green Day and Linkin Park, and Papa Roach. I remember drumming to some Papa Roach with some knitting needles on a pillow, which actually, to be fair, isn't far off what you do, when you practice on your pillow with some drumsticks. I was halfway there. I was unaware of drummers, I think. I was just into bands, and then as I progressed, learned, got introduced to bands like Deftones, where the music, the drumming really is, a big part of the band. It's not just the backing beat, it's it's got character. And then bands like Tool and all that sort of stuff, but it took me a while to get to those. I was kind of your Blink-182, well, I suppose, Travis Barker and Trey Cool, I suppose, early doors.
That's cool. This is the question that I have to ask you, but I hate using the term female drummer, a female fronted band or female producer, but certain roles and areas in the music industry are pretty much male dominated. So I have to ask you, was it easy from your perspective to find work, or did you have to kind of prove yourself a little bit more?
It's so interesting, this, and it's still such a grey area, and even though I'm in the thick of it, I still don't really have a definitive answer for all this sort of stuff, because to be totally honest, growing up with bands and my friends laugh at me, but I'm a bit obsessed with them, with the Spice Girls, and you had Buffy the Vampire Slayer on TV. I never really thought that I couldn't do anything, and so that never really bled into anything until a bit, later on, when you come up against a bit of sexism or whatnot. But all that did was make me practice harder, because the best way to shut somebody up is to be awesome at your instrument. Yeah, and even if you're not great, drums are really loud, so you just play over them that'll shut them up. So I never really thought about it too much, to be totally honest. I never really saw it as a unique selling point. I'm just me, and I'm a drummer. I'm not necessarily I am a female drummer, but I'm a drummer before I'm a female drummer.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so
I mean, female's not a genre, is it?
No, that's what I hate the term.
It's always the way, isn't it? It's just like female, whatever. It's like, no, just drummer, just musician, just...
Yeah. And it's a strange one, because obviously people, like, you get bands like Warpaint, who I'm also obsessed with. And obviously if you put 4 girls together, you're going to get a different sound, you're going to get a different style than if you would, because it's female perspective. So it can't be totally ignored. This is what I mean when I say it's a bit of a grey area, is that I actually don't have the answer for this, because I want, like, level playing field, genders don't count, but to a certain extent, of course they do. Like, you know, when Beyonce had her all 16-piece female band, it was, and there's some drummers that really inspired me when I saw Nikki Glaspie playing for Beyonce. I was just like, and Kim Thompson, she had 2 female drummers, whole horn section, backing band, bass player, keys. It made an impact on me, and I must have been about 18 at the time, like, to see that. So it's a funny one. It's kind of like, you can't ignore it, but I think the sooner we get to that it's not a thing, the better. Yeah. That it's not such a highlighted thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tokenistic thing a lot of the time, isn't it? It's like, oh, it's unusual because it's a female, let's draw attention to it. Do you find, in your experience, is there a difference between collaborating with, say, an all-female band and you being the only female in a male band? Is there a different dynamic?
It's interesting because I haven't really played in bands with loads of females, and it's one of the things that I really want to change. It's because I've played on bills with some amazing female musicians, like breathtaking. But in terms of being in a band and jamming with, not so much. Like, I have more males basically that I've played with. So I can't really answer that question correctly, I guess. But in terms of, I don't know, like, I think females write music a little bit differently. So when I have jammed with female musicians, they definitely are a bit more emotionally charged, I think, in a different way. Not to say that men aren't, because Steve, who I'm in a band with, who's the guitarist in our band, is incredibly emotionally available, and that's what makes the music so raw. But women kind of do it, like, differently. It's hard to explain. Like, it's like fierce, whether that's to, like, prove something or whatnot. I really feel, when I've seen some musicians play on stage, I really feel the fire coming from them, and whether that's because, you know, they're up against the odds or something like that, it's kind of different. But in terms of playing with them, I haven't, to my own detriment, massively played with loads of female musicians. I did do the MTV Awards with 22 other female drummers, and it was like a miming thing for Clean Bandit, which was so much fun. It was like going to drum camp with loads of girls. It was awesome. So we had, like, rehearsal on a Saturday, and then we played on the Sunday. And that was really inspiring, just to hang out with these women who came from all walks of life. Some taught, some had full-time jobs. And the sheet of music, like, it wasn't easy. It was like marching snare. And everybody nailed it. It was, you know, we had to follow this pattern with your hands. And I shit myself because I'm not very good at reading music. And I was working in a drum shop at the time and ran to my manager and I was like, you're going to have to teach me this because I don't know what's happening. And he was like, don't worry. He said, everybody will. It was like, this is quite difficult. It was like, when you turn up, you know, the other girls might struggle as well. Not one of them. They all had it absolutely nailed down, which made me, like, sweat even more. But it was like, 22 incredibly awesome women just playing. It was an amazing thing to be involved in.
Girl power.
Yeah, big time.
But do you think it's something that, I know we can't predict the future, but do you think it's something that will change, where female isn't necessarily used at the front of drummer? Or do you think people still got...
I don't know. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Like, because we are female, so you can't deny that. And if you're looking for aesthetically a female in your bands, which is wicked cool, then, you know, that's what you're going to look for. And I know a couple of male session players who have lost out to females on certain gigs because that's what they were looking for. I think the argument would be, for me, is if talent wasn't taken so much into account and you were turning down people who were really, really skilled for somebody who wasn't so much based on the gender. That's when it's a bit like, But then on the flip side of the coin, you know, you're also giving somebody who isn't that experienced a break. So
I mean, that happens in all walks of life, doesn't it? It's not just music. It's like people base things on looks, whether that's got anything to do with the skill involved or not, don't they?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And, you know, the girl that's playing for Harry Styles at the moment, like, you know, what a gig. Of course she can play drums amazing. And of course there's a load of male drummers that could do the same thing. But to have a female doing that, it's badass. Like, it is badass. Yeah, and we've been more repressed in terms of like encouragement. I think like this is a grassroots problem. If we're going to talk about females in music, especially drumming. It's a grassroots thing, and I was just watching a documentary on the Lionesses and the Euro win, and it's so inspiring. And I was lucky enough to go to the opening game and the closing game, actually, in the final, and I have never felt so inspired by women who have come from, you know, like having to wear the under-19s old training kit when they first started out to now selling out Wembley. Anybody who's had the odds against them, which a lot of females have, like when they're on stage, they just get to inspire the next generation. Then it becomes a grassroots thing where, you know, girls play football in the street now because it's more acceptable. And when I was a kid, that was a bit odd, you know, to see girls saying that I want to play football and things like that. So I genuinely believe that it's a total grassroots thing.
Oh, absolutely. But how did you get into session drumming as well?
Well, I still feel like I'm just starting this journey, because the sort of sessions I've done is like little like theatre things. I did like Quadrophenia and The Wall, and I've done some studio stuff. But I genuinely feel like, and the MTV stuff and some TV bits and bobs, I haven't really thrown myself into that too much. I was too busy basically getting drunk around Manchester and playing DIY bands, and, you know, like, and now I've reached my 30s. I'm like, right, it's really time to lean into that. And I make money as a drummer in terms of like covers band and things like that, but I'm not shy of the fact that I want to play for bigger artists now. So in terms of that question, you might want to ask me in a couple of years, because I feel like I'll come back to that one.
Yeah, what I was going to say was that kind of does lead on to one of my other questions, is like, what goals do you have for yourself in regards to like the future of what you're doing in music and session playing, your band?
Basically, yeah. Like I'm quite fortunate that I do make enough money to kind of sustain from music, and I think anybody that can do that is you know, lucky. But that involves, like I say, being in sort of wedding bands and stuff, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's actually really, really good money, and I would never turn it down, even if I was on a world tour and I came back and there was a wedding gig. I think it's just easy money. I did a bit of drum teching for Happy Mondays, which I wouldn't mind getting back into again, not with them but with other bands, because that like can open doors and things like that. I wouldn't mind dipping my toe back in, because I've done quite a lot of stuff, but only like in small doses. So now I feel like I really need to focus and make drumming my full-time job that isn't just scraping by, that's kind of because like throughout my 20s I was never bothered about money. I could just pay my rent and then, you know, play drums all the time, which was awesome. But now I'm a bit like, it would be nice to have a bit of spare cash, but I don't want to give up what I'm doing. I really want to make this work. So to answer your question, I think I've been meaning to like really sort my socials out, because that is where it's at the moment. I'm reluctant to do it. I'm quite a private person. I don't really put anything but business stuff up online in terms of drumming. But I think I kind of need to, you know, like really lean into that a little bit more.
It's interesting that, because I know a few drummers who are the same. Like the musicians I know who are a bit reticent about social media tend to be drummers.
Oh, really?
Interestingly, yeah. I mean, the guitarists, like, you can't get them off it, and the singers. But the drummers are kind of like, oh, I kind of just want to play drums. I don't really want to, you know. Yeah, I
have red light syndrome. I don't know about you guys, but I can't play. If I know it's being filmed, I can't I can't play. Like,
different game, yeah.
Yeah, I freak out, I freeze if I know something. I'm not so bad live. I can like thrash it live because I'm there to perform. But if I've set up, I've only just started doing it. Do you know how long it takes to make like a minute video? And this is what, and every time I'm dead stressed and I'm like, this is exactly why I don't do it, and I'm just stomping around my band room because that camera hasn't worked, or that microphone hasn't worked, or the lighting isn't right, or I've made a mistake, and I'm just like one thing after another, and I'm like, this is exactly why I never did it in the first place.
Point proven.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that does need to change. You know, me and Carol have spoken about this before, and the podcast is sort of like society and social media and stuff, but also like there's a whole pressure on, like, by the time you're 25 you must, like, particularly in music, like have this record deal or be doing this. And it's nice to see and speak to people who are 30 plus that are still striving for a career and have goals of like bigger and better stuff, and that's something that needs to change as well.
I agree. It's a very ageist industry, isn't it?
Yes.
Very
music, particularly have a deal or.
Yeah, it's quite scary as well. Like, you kind of, is it Lady Gaga that turned 30 and all the press were saying that she's past it?
Yeah.
So offensive.
Don't do that for men though, do they? It's very much a sexist thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those, and it's it's those tiny little things that like try and keep women sort of repressed. It's so frustrating.
I was thinking with music. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to say, I read an article on a songwriter who was, I don't know what her name was now, but she was lying about her age. I think she was like in her 30s, but when she submitted songs, she was saying she was 27. But she was like, it's so stupid, because she was writing for other artists, and she was saying, obviously the more life you live, the more life experience you have, the better songs you're going to write. So what is this backward system where, like, a 19-year-old, unless you're Billie Eilish, in my opinion, you can't, you're just scatting around life. Like, when you're reaching your 30s and your 40s, you have much more to say. Like, it's insane how we kind of cut that off then, like, you passed it.
Yeah, I was going to say the same for being a musician. It's like, you get better. I've been playing for like 30 years, and of course I'm better than I was when I was in my 20s, because I've got thousands and thousands of extra hours of practice. So it's just madness, isn't it?
Of going on tour and, how to talk to people, being a people person. Yeah, it's very bizarre. I think it is an ageist industry in that respect. But personally for me, I like women, seeing women on stage, and that's, like, big fan of like Chelsea Wolfe and Warpaint. I think they're in the 30s now. And I'd much sooner see a woman on stage than a girl, probably because I can relate to them a little bit more and I feel outdated if I see a young person bouncing around on stage. But yeah, women are hot and, inspiring and strong, and they've been through, they could have kids, or they could be married, they could have, have this whole other life, but they're still getting up on stage and owning it in the 30s and 40s, 50s. And I think as well, you could grow with, because I want to be a session player still, because I can grow with artists. So if an artist comes along, and I don't think it would really make sense for me if I was in my 50s and playing for an artist in the 20s, unless I started to get some insane Botox. But I think it would make more sense for me to play with somebody who was more in my age bracket. So I think I'm trying to positively look at it a bit like acting, where you can change your character. You just be changing your artist.
That's a nice analogy. Yeah. And it's just like, on a social level, like touring, you kind of, it makes more sense to tour with people who are roughly in your sort of generations. You've got more in common, and you've got
want to go to
lots
bed
of touchstones. Yeah. Have a cup of tea, be in bed by midnight.
Yeah. No tequila for me, thanks. I'm off to bed.
What I was going to ask you as well, obviously you're progressing in your career still, but do you have any advice for anyone wanting to start out in music, particularly drumming?
I would say, it sounds so cliche, but like practice and have fun, and don't worry about like the old, because sometimes I don't go on social media and things like that, because I find you can put a lot of pressure on yourself, be like, oh, I'm not doing enough. I think you got to sort of stick in your own lane for a little bit and just have fun with it. There was a couple of years ago when I kind of fell out of love with drumming a little. Well, not fell out of love with it, but I was fed up of trying to kind of keep up with the Joneses on it. And I just went back. I went to Steve White and had a drum lesson, who's a phenomenal drummer. And it kind of brought me back to why I love doing it in the first place. And I think if you lose that, then you've not got a longevity with it. So I would say mainly have fun, like practice. I mean, when I do my rudiments on a pad, some people hate practicing on a practice pad. I love it because it's quite meditative and I can put a podcast on and I'm actually doing something productive, but it's like calming my mind. You know, I can empty my thoughts. You could do it on a kit as well, but there's obviously people don't have loads of access to, you know, loud drums, but a pad will see you through. And as long as you're doing that like 10, 20 minutes a day at least, you're always going to remain like, you know, smooth and just like it just I don't know, it's just I think you should just have fun with it, basically. I think you should do it because you want to do it.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes I probably should have mentioned this line a bit ago, but I think like with social media, I think sometimes people lose. There are obviously people on there that are very passionate, but they've seen also like instant gratification of people going viral seemingly overnight. And I think sometimes that can get a bit lost in why people want to do music.
100%.
Because they think, fame, but
100%.
Music's incredibly hard.
Yeah, and it's emotional, and you can't, you know, you can fall out of love with music easily because it's emotion, and you can't always channel that. You know, if you get writer's block, it's, you know, it's hard to, you can give yourself a hard time, but you can't force something that's emotional. That's why if you do practice pad and stuff like that, it's really pragmatic. So you can just, you know, you don't have to really be writing or doing anything. It's just seeing results. But yeah, it's a totally an emotional charged thing. And that's as well when you're trying to mix something like business and pleasure. Sometimes that's where I come a bit undone, because with the social media thing, I find it quite overwhelming at times. And I went to download TikTok the other day, try and get down with the kids. And I was watching this really annoying introduction video on YouTube, and I was like, I just can't believe I'm sat watching this really enthusiastic American woman talk about TikTok. And she was like, to start, you know, you need to put, like, I started and I put 5 videos up a day for 2 weeks, and I just immediately deleted the app. I was like, I ain't got time for that. And I was like, I'll revisit that when I've got like a pile. It's kind of my ignorance as well. But I was just like, I don't want to be held to that sort of routine. It's too much. Like I would put my sticks down after that. It's too much to ask of somebody.
Yeah, I'm on TikTok, so represent also.
Down with the kids, Emily.
Down with the youth.
You put 5 videos of
34 going on 14. That is that. There are people that they're like, you have to post 5 to 10 times a day, and I'm just like, I post whenever I want to, because I know people that post consistently and they get social media burnout.
Oh, really?
They find it really it impacts their mental health.
Big time. Yeah, there's a healthy balance.
Constantly trying to please the algorithm, and it's again, why are you doing it?
Yeah. I mean, I will download TikTok. It was just in that moment I was like, I'm not doing that right now. I think my plan was to maybe compile some videos and then just, you know, dump them on there, like quite just to get the algorithm game going. But I just the initial thought of it was like, this isn't. And when I hear of bands, I don't know whether I'm just being a bit of a stick in the mud with this, but hearing of bands that write songs for TikTok now because the first 30 seconds are really important, and I'm like, how much of that can come from your heart? If you're a songwriter, then obviously, you know, and I'm a massive pop fan, so I love, you know, well structured songs and, you know, a good intro, verse, love all that. But if you're a band that's trying to write from your heart, how much can you really speak if on your mind you're constantly thinking, is this going to be successful on TikTok? Is this going to be quick enough? You know, how much of that is actually organic, or is it just worried about the likes?
Yeah, I guess it just depends on your intention, doesn't it? If you're interested in being authentic and speaking from the heart, then I think TikTok likes is like the bottom of your priority list, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why I deleted the app.
Join it. No. But do you have any like career highlights so far?
We played Download with my originals band, the Hyena Kill, which was awesome. Yeah, and it was when we were a 2-piece as well, and we worked so hard to get on that stage. And we're a 4-piece now. We bred because we needed to.
More hyenas.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Sonically, we'd kind of maxed out. We wanted to, you know, just take our sound a bit further. But when we were a 2-piece, we did loads of wicked gigs, and my kit was on the side of the stage. which I actually think made me step up, because we did have a bass player when we first started out like years ago, and he left, and then we became a two-piece, and my guitarist like was really good. He got like his Pog, and he went for a bass amp and a guitar amp, and we decided to put my kit on the side of the stage, and that really helped with my like showmanship. So when I got to these stages like Download, like I really went for it, because you work so hard to get there. And we've played like Art Tangent and 2000 Trees, and like festivals that bands can really struggle to get on. Outside of that, I would say I really enjoyed. I used to work in drum shops around Manchester, and I really enjoyed working at Manchester Drum Centre, which later turned into Drum One because Nico McBrain from Iron Maiden bought it, and having him as a boss was wild. Because it was mad. It was so nice though. We used to get these like Maiden fans coming in, and even though that's not playing, I was so grateful to be surrounded by drummers and musicians in my day-to-day work, and it was really inspiring. And having this, the biggest band in the world probably. I've never known. We went to a gig, and I think it was the NEC in Birmingham, and I'd say honestly like 90% of the people there were in Iron Maiden t-shirts. It was insane. I've never known a fan base like it. Like, and they're so theatrical, and I sometimes worry about when these bands kind of die out, who's gonna, take their place in terms of like Alice Cooper and things like really cheaper in it. Yeah, holograms. Yeah,
TikTok robots.
The future. Yeah. 5 second content. But no, just thank you so much for talking to us. And I'll make sure that your website is linked in the description, as well as mine and Carol's social media as well, if anyone wishes to check us out. And thank you for talking to us today, Lorna. Yeah.
No, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thanks for asking me.
Yeah. Lorna Blundell, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you.